Welcome everyone to Unscripted Coding. Today we are playing again with another AI chatbot, and I'm going to show you how you can build and deploy your own chatbot for your business with little to no programming skills whatsoever. Now let me recap really quickly. Last week we put together this green looking chatbot, and what's really important is that it runs Microsoft Azure OpenAI in the background. It runs it in the back, meaning that you're not relying on OpenAI or chat-gpt. This is really important for businesses because OpenAI tends to take your data and continue training their models with it. Your security and your privacy is not guaranteed. On the other hand, Microsoft does. It gives you the full GPT-3 or GPT-4 experience without the security or confidentiality issues that you may run into with OpenAI. Now, it's not perfect. You definitely want to take a look at the legal documents and privacy, but I venture a guess to say that most businesses will be perfectly fine with this chatbot deployed internally and putting sensitive information, your business plans, your customer lists, all of these things into a chatbot. I do recommend watching that video first, last week's video, and it is in the description below if you want to click into it, because we talk a lot about these subtle differences. Now, in that particular version, you'll see that we can upload a specific file. So I can upload a PDF and start talking and asking questions about the PDF. There are elements of Bing Chat in here as well. And generally speaking, this is a more polished demo than the one we're looking at today. But the version we're looking at today has one killer feature, and that's asking questions about your corporate database. So I'm going to click this random prompt. This is just the canned question to demonstrate it, but it's asking what's included in my plan that's not in the standard plan. And the AI is coming up with a bunch of different answers here. Copay, access to telemedicine, medically necessary services, blah, 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 blah. And what's really cool is that it's citing where it comes from and allows you to click into it and take a look at the text immediately. And you can see that different pieces of its answers comes from different sections of the document. Very, very, very useful. And I can follow up with questions. So the suggestion is, does my plan cover eye exams? Question mark. And it will continue asking questions and looking at the documents. You might be wondering where these documents come from. Well, it's included as a sample, but basically it's coming from my desktop. There's 6 files here, but you can scale this up to 100, 1,000. It's really just a matter of how much you want to upload onto the cloud to generate these answers. So in this case, again, it looked at the document, different pages than what was cited before, and linking to it. So that is a killer feature. If you're thinking about how you can use this in your business, you can keep all of your product documentation, descriptions, marketing, slips, pamphlets, flyers, all in one folder, and be able to ask it questions very quickly, whether as a support agent or as a customer. How do I fix this error? How do I do this? Does it do X and Y? Does it have these features? You can use it for policies like this one. If you have a lot of these internal policies, you can have a chatbot that answers questions about anything really, and many more that you can do. So I think this is one really killer feature that will sell the chatbots, and I'm hoping that one day these things kind of merge into one solution. But for now, you kind of have to pick and choose your pieces, or you have to know kind of what you're doing. This one, well worth it. I wouldn't mind deploying multiple chatbots as well as a solution. Now, you'll be happy to know that even though this one looks a little less polished, the deployment is much easier than our previous solution. So I'm going to just jump right into deployment. The first step to deploy is you're going to download and install the Azure Developer CLI. Now, if you've installed Azure CLI before, that is not the same thing. This is Azure Developer CLI, specifically for developers. And you'll see that, any desktop will work, Mac, Linux, Windows. I am on Windows, so you're going to need to open up command prompt. So go into the search button in your start bar way down here and find command prompt or CMD. And you're going to get a black and white kind of interface. Now, I've already done this. Basically, you copy this installer, this command, you paste it, copy, paste it, click enter. I already have it, but you might have to click Y afterwards to agree to terms. This should take no time. I probably shouldn't have clicked enter because I've already installed it once, but should be buttery smooth, very easy to install. Now, we'll come back to the GitHub page, which is linked in my description, but you can search GitHub Azure Search OpenAI Demo, exactly like here, and land on this page. We're going to click code and download the zip file. Now, I've already downloaded it, and there's a folder in here, and I dragged it into my desktop right here. So this Azure Search OpenAI Demo.main, that's this folder right here. So I dragged it into my desktop. What I'm then going to do is open up Windows PowerShell. I am going to run it as an administrator, and this is really important. You have to run it as an administrator because an error that I kept running into is that this is still a development kind of file. It hasn't been signed. So what you're going to need to do is allow it to execute. And I have this command right here, and I should zoom in so you could take a quick look. It is Set-ExecutionPolicy scope process execution policy bypass. I'm also going to leave a link to this lengthy explanation about execution policies in the description. But basically what I'm saying is just for this one process, I'm going to allow you to bypass those execution policy restrictions. This means that as soon as you close the window, everything goes back to normal. This may be a little uncomfortable for certain people, but the part that makes me feel better about all of this, let's go yes, is that, again, this is provided by Azure, Microsoft. Yeah, they designed the system. Now, what I'm going to do is cd, basically change directories from Windows System 32 to my folder that I unzipped. That's that Azure Search OpenAI Demo-main. And you're going to see that deployment from scratch is right here. All you have to do is type azd up. Remember, azd refers to Azure Developer, so you need to have installed this. And that's basically all you have to do. Get into the right folder, say azd up, and you're going to have a couple options here. Now, first of all, you need a name. I'm going to call it Azure Search YouTube Demo Chatbot. Terrible name, but we'll stick with it. It's going to initialize and ask a couple questions about the region and your subscription. So first of all, you might need to log into Azure. So Oh, I'm making assumptions here, but you do need to go and get a Microsoft Azure account. You can go and Google Microsoft Azure, sign up right here. It is a pay-as-you-go account, so this thing does cost money. You're going to need to enter your credit card when you sign up. Now, when you do it, you're going to sign up for a single subscription. You're going to get a bunch of free credits as well. But I've been using Azure for a little while. I'm going to choose number 3. This is where I'm spinning a few of my different projects right now. And you're going to pick locations. Just like our last video, I had issues with Canada East because one of the services called Form Recognizer that takes images and translates it to text isn't available in Canada East. So I'm going to switch over to US East and allow it doing its stuff. Let's start money. How much is this going to cost? Because as soon as I said pay as you go, that may have raised some concerns. They do talk about cost estimation in this README. So if you scroll down from GitHub and look at commission, you can look at Azure's pricing calculator and click into each of these to understand. Now, they have used a basic tier apps. This is about $20 a month. Depends on your region, depends on other factors as well, and who knows how pricing will go in the future. But roughly speaking, this is $20 a month. OpenAI depends on how much you use. I say for about 20 people that's using the chatbot on a regular basis, about $5 to $10. Form Recognizer gets priced per page, but there is a free tier as well. I'm going to leave that alone, but this could cost $10, $20, especially if you start adding a lot of documents that need to have that form recognized. Now here, I'm just going to go down into East US again. This one is specific for OpenAI. And I'll make sure they remember my choice, East US. And let's see here, Azure Cognitive Search. This is the one that costs quite a bit of money. We are using standard tier, which costs about $100 a month. Quite significant, but it is absolutely necessary if you're doing this type of a chatbot. Now, on the previous one where we didn't have a store of documents in the back, we can get away with using the free tier, but unfortunately, it costs a lot to search your document over and over with AI. And this is where I think you're going to get gouged. Because if you are using the standard tier up to 25 gigs, very reasonable for you to have, 25 gigs worth of documents. Soon as you hit the next tier, it's roughly 4 times the price. So you can think $400. It's a lot of money. So this is the part that's going to cost you, but it's also driving the most value out of this particular sample. Next, blob storage and monitor. These are fairly cheap. I'd say $5 to $10 a month between the two. I'm probably overestimating it quite a bit. So you're looking at $130, $140 a month. Like the vast majority coming from that cognitive search, which you're just not going to get away with no matter which solution you go to. Okay, let's come back here. If you scroll up, if it lets me scroll up, you're going to see that it did a lot of this packaging service. It's gathering all the data. Now it's creating all the resources. I like to look at this link just to see what's happening. And you'll see that search service, this one takes a little bit. So I'm going to pause here. I'd say it's going to take about 10 minutes to fully deploy this section, really just waiting on the search service to be created. So I'll move this back here, and I'll pause the video. Okay, so in total, I waited about half an hour for everything to be done. Now, to be fair, it took a while, but it was completely hands-off. I didn't have to touch anything. And if we scroll back up, all the way up, you'll see what was happening. Now, when we last left off, we were over here where it was still creating the various services. Once it was done that, it installed a whole bunch of files, and then it started trying to get all of your data properly indexed for your chatbot. So it took each page, sent it through the form recognizer, ran it through cognitive search, and eventually created a vector which your AI chatbot can make use of. So that took a bit of time. And then from there, it just took some time to actually gather all of that stuff up and move it into the resources that we had created at the start. Again, start to finish, this took about half an hour, very roughly, and it does take a bit of time. Even after it says, all done and you have an endpoint here, you will need to wait another 5 or 6 minutes for it to actually reflect on the website. So I'm going to go here, enter the website, and ta-da! This looks very familiar. I'm just noticing now there's a developer setting, so interesting. And we could test it. So what does a product manager do? It's going to try and find an answer for us. Now, before I stopped, I did want to go back. If you remember, this was our list of all the stuff that happened. I wanted to take a look at, I think, our app service. This is probably not the right thing. I'm just going to go into the resource group. When you click resource group, you can see all the things it created. This is your OpenAI instance. This is your app service. That's the website. Document intelligence. That's your form recognizer. Search service. This is where they keep all of your pages and documents. And storage account. That's where you store your raw PDF files. I wanted to check on the app service and wanted to point out that this is a very ugly URL, automatically generated. You can go into custom domains and you can buy a domain right off the bat and call it, chat-gpt for my business.com, and you can have it a custom domain as well. The other thing that I think we're not going to do today is that you can put a password protection on here. So if you enable authentication here, you can add app authentication, which you do within the app service. So over here, you can use authentication. You can create with Azure Active Directory, or apparently it's called Microsoft Entra now, and put basically a requirement for you to log in through Microsoft before you can see this web page. There's a lot of little things, but one that we're also not going to explore, but is very much worth looking at, is this guide that allows you to separate the documents. So you can actually have different pools of documents. So for example, I, as a junior, can only see the basic level documents, some of our, say, internal policies for the business. And someone more senior, again, requiring that authentication, is able to use the AI and see all the company's leases and recruitment contracts and all the employees' employment agreements, all of those much more sensitive pieces. You can lock them between and behind different groups. This is quite a bit of work to get working, from what I can tell. And so I'm not going to go into that for a demo, but this is pretty cool. We asked the next bit, what is a product manager? And looking at the pages, you can see manager of product management. That is a very odd title. And all of this with basically one command and a lot of time in between to get set up. I have done a video on bring your own data before, and all of this can be done through APIs, and you can create your own chatbot. So you don't necessarily need to do it this way, but this is one really quick way for your business to get all set up. And if you were to change the design, you can go into the app and assets. So let's look at the app and look at the front end, and you can start looking at the different pieces of it as well. So if you want to brand this site so that it has your business name, your logo, you want to change it to the right colors, you can do that all within the code, and then you would just run azd deploy or azd up. Azd deploy just purely for these cosmetic issues, azd up if you need to recreate a lot of the Azure pieces. Anyways, I hope that was really interesting. We have done 2 separate chatbots now, and I think they are very different approaches to the problem, and we may actually build our own in the near future. These are actually quite sophisticated even as samples, and you can build your own chatbot with far fewer lines of code, far simpler as well. So thanks for watching, and next week we will do yet another project. I'll see you next week. Bye. Oops, let me pop in really quickly with one final note here. I was looking at the FAQs for this, some very, very useful information. If you have additional documents you want to put in here, you can just run a separate command as well. So the idea is you keep this in one data folder, you remove and you put in new documents as you need. The other piece, other than GPT-4, is that there are 2 tabs, and you can ask questions about your document, and you can also chat with them. There are specific differences in how it approaches. Now, if you chat, it turns a question into a search query. It's almost like Bing Chat if you have used it before. You ask it a question, let's say, what is in my health plan? It doesn't search that specific question. It will turn it into health plan contents, let's say, and search that. That is one way of doing it. Another way is the Ask tab. So it will search the question as is and combine the search result and the user question. I think these are 2 distinct, different ways to approach it, both with different kind of results. If you have chat and it reduces your question into a search query, it will probably get to the document, the right documents quicker and better. So if you have folks that aren't sure what they're asking, that's probably your best bet, the chat tab. If they're asking questions and they know what they're talking about, this is your best bet. So For example, if I have a business and I have all of the policies, internal policies of the business in this folder, the person that uses chat is your general employee who has no idea what they're doing, and they're just saying, I want to take a sick day, what do I do? The ask a question would be more tailored to somebody who is writing that policy, who knows exactly what it is they're looking for. So they're going, in their mind, page 14 of this document, I think, and they'll know the right keywords to say, I wrote a document that has a header that is talking about medical sick days. That's not even the right term, but let's say medical leave. Your regular person might not use that terminology. So very cool that there are two separate approaches, and their use case differs. That's it for me. Lots of interesting information if you read through the whole GitHub README.